That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 'Tis Freaky Friday right here on The Breakdown, where we discuss the fringe topics, the crazy things that'll, well, get you kicked out of Bible study and sent to therapy. The macabre, the dark, maybe even the dank. That's right, folks. So many people, so many things right now happening in the craziness of our times. Just the year 2020 is in itself been the freakiest of all. So there's so many things we can talk about and discuss. You know, and just for those who are new listeners to the program, I initially started this Freaky Friday so that we could talk about odd things like the paranormal and demons and angels and ghosts and maybe even some cryptozoology, things like that, just, kind of reaching out there and showing that there is a Christian explanation for all of those weird and wacky things you have out there. But right when we started this on Fridays, everything exploded into the wackiness which we now see as 2020. So the shamdemic, the fact that the virus was created in a lab, the fact that China has this desire to destroy other countries, especially the United States, through clean kills like biological weapons, so that they can have an infrastructure where their people can come and live and they can expand their territory with this imperialistic mindset. We've had the shamdemic that is shutting down all of our businesses, shuttering schools, and fighting against all logic and reason. We've had the shampeachment, where the Democrats have tried to destroy Donald Trump's reputation and remove him from office. We've had the Russia hoax come to its head as well. So 2020, that's just a couple of the events right there. 2020 has been a very odd and freaky year, and it continues to get odder and freakier. And my intent, not necessarily was to freak you out, but it happens that on Friday and really other days on the show, when we talk about this stuff, it does get you, it does push you to the edge of thinking of what's happening, what's the next step. Sometimes it scares folks and prevents them from sleeping at night. And although that does give me a small joy in the back of my mind, I only get joy because I want you to be informed and I want you to think about what is happening. Because without you knowing what's going on, you cannot possibly fight what's going on. So you have to be educated and knowledgeable. One such event right now is the election, as the snowball starts to grow, as it's rolling down this massive hill, and we're heading towards the election. I'm very concerned about what the next steps are going to be. It appears to me, as anybody who is following any of the election news or any of the election cycle right now, that the Democrats believe that they are going to win one way or the other. They have got some crazy, weird fantasy that Trump will lose this election. But not just simply losing, but losing miserably. And not just losing miserably, but they are fantasizing about the military going to the White House at 12:01 p.m. on Inauguration Day and dragging Trump from the White House. Joe Biden has said multiple times that he believes that Donald Trump will be removed from office with great dispatch. And he's said it multiple. It wasn't just, one of his gaffes. He has said this multiple times. And they are growing this narrative in the media that Donald Trump is fighting against our elections. He doesn't want a fair and safe election when it comes to the mail-in ballots. They are seeding in the minds of folks this conspiracy theory that Donald Trump is completely against being removed from office at all. I had a listener send a couple of really great pieces, and I'm going to work from all of these pieces and try to put them together along, of course, with my own thoughts, because it's one thing for you to think, oh, here I am in the studio and I'm living in a world of paranoia, thinking that folks are going to do certain things to destroy the process or the electoral process in the United States of America. It's another thing when you read other folks who are mainline conservatives who say the exact same thing. And it gets a little disconcerting at times. Because in the back of my mind, I always have this thing. I was talking to my uncle recently, and I told him, I was like, I hope I'm wrong, but I fear that I'm right. And that is the entire theme of this election cycle. I hope I'm wrong about the fact that the Democrats will not concede this election, as Hillary Clinton has said. I hope that I'm wrong that Joe Biden will not concede the election. I fear that I'm right, that it'll be an attempt at a violent overthrow and a coup, as Byron York has called it, coup porn, where a resistant military has to physically remove Donald Trump from office. If you remember a few weeks ago on the show, we covered a war game scenario from a group that is bent on making sure that Donald Trump is removed from office one way or another. And there are a couple of military lieutenants and lieutenant colonels and generals who have gotten together and written a paper about the war game scenario and what might happen when Donald Trump finds out that he loses the election. Here's what they have to say. The two gentlemen, the two Army officers, Paul Yingling and John Nagel. Yingling actually is a retired lieutenant colonel with several combat tours, including serving as General H.R. McMaster's deputy in the First Iraq War. Nagel, also a retired lieutenant colonel, is currently headmaster at the Haverford School in Pennsylvania. This was a couple of weeks ago, but they published a paper called All Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, an open letter to General Milley. The addressee is General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Their argument in this paper is that the president is facing a near certain electoral defeat, and after losing would face not merely political ignominy, but also criminal charges. Nagel and Yingling say an ex-President Trump will face prosecution by the Manhattan District Attorney and the U.S. Attorney for Southern District of New York bank fraud, New York for bank fraud, insurance fraud, and many examples of self-dealing. They have wild imaginations here as they write this paper. They allege that Trump is a desperate man, and he has already begun taking desperate measures, giving this dizzying array of threats not merely to his political prospects, but also his liberty and wealth. They write, Mr. Trump is following the playbook of dictators throughout history. He is building a private army answerable only to him. That is where Milley comes in, because Trump is a desperate man with a private army at his command. They argue the Joint Chiefs chairman must order troops into the streets on Inauguration Day. The clock will strike 12:01 p.m., January 20, 2021, and Donald Trump will be sitting in the Oval Office, they write. The street protests will inevitably swell outside the White House, and the ranks of Trump's private army will grow inside its grounds. The Speaker of the House will declare the Trump presidency at an end and direct the Secret Service and federal marshals to remove Trump from the premises. These agents will realize that they are outmanned and outgunned by Trump's private army, and the moment of decision will arrive. At this moment of constitutional crisis, only two options remain. Under the first, the U.S. military forces escort the former president from the White House grounds. Trump's little green men, so intimidating to lightly armed federal marshals. Federal law would not constitute a good morning's work for a brigade of the 82nd Airborne. Under the second, the U.S. military remains inert while the Constitution dies. The succession of government is determined by extra-legal violence between Trump's private army and street protesters. Black Lives Matter Plaza becomes Tahrir Square. This is the fantastical thinking of top brass of the military who are writing a letter to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the only two options are the Constitution dies or Trump is physically removed from office. They do not posit one bit, they do not even consider the possibility that Donald Trump could win the election fairly. And to be honest with you, they don't care. Because what they are revealing to us is their blueprint for what they are going to do when President Trump wins the election in November. Now, there is nothing to make us think that Donald Trump is whatsoever going to refuse to step down. This private military force that they are insisting Donald Trump is building is the military force that they're saying he sent into the streets of Portland to guard federal property. It is, as Byron York calls it, coup porn. It is only in the minds of imaginative liberals who are so desperate to see Donald Trump removed from office that they will begin these flights of fancy. But the danger, folks, is not the fact that they are thinking about this or writing fictional papers or doing war games or considering this behind closed doors. The danger is the fact that they are actually putting into place a plan to systematically remove a president by violent means, one way or another. Straight up. They are giving us a blueprint of what they are going to do regardless of the results of the election, either electoral or proper or correct one bit. And they're going to begin by saying that Donald Trump they're going to falsely claim that Donald Trump has lost the election. The danger, folks, in that in itself, because when you have mail-in ballots, and Donald Trump is obviously leery of mail-in ballots, just like anybody else is, we're genuinely concerned about mail-in ballots. But they're starting to sow the seeds of discord, saying that Trump refuses to have fair elections and will not count everyone's vote. And that's why mail-in ballots are so important. They are actively, folks, before our eyes, planning a coup. And again, this is not just me. This is not just me thinking this. Michael Anton wrote a fantastic piece about this, and it's called The Coming Coup. Now, see, folks, they've been planting, I'm going to get into this piece in just a moment, but think about this, though. They've been planting these seeds for several years. Back when Hillary Clinton lost the election, what was the number one thing she was pushing? Well, it's hard to pick a number one because she had about 15 different excuses every time she was interviewed about why Trump was in office and she wasn't. And she still contests to this day that she won the election. Because she said at the Democratic National Convention during her video presentation, she said, you can win by 3 million votes and still not be in the White House or still lose the election. She thinks that she won, people. She thinks that she's the rightful president. And she has been trying to plant the seeds of removing the Electoral College, of undermining the constitutional process to elect a president. Al Gore is still upset about the fact that he was feels as being robbed of the presidency back when he ran against George W. Bush. So these seeds of discord have been planted for quite some time in the media, and the liberal establishment has picked it up, and they've started to move forward with this narrative to convince the American people that Donald Trump will be an illegitimate president regardless of what any of the election results say. Michael Anton, in his piece here, I'm going to read a couple excerpts from this. When he mentions here that Joe Biden himself has said multiple times that Trump will have to be escorted from the White House with great dispatch, Al Gore agrees. He says here, one might dismiss such comments as the ravings of a dementia patient and a has-been who has never gotten over his own electoral loss. But before you do, consider also this. Over the summer, a story was deliberately leaked to the press of a meeting at which 100 Democrat grandees, anti-Trump former Republicans, and other ruling classes got together on George Soros's dime to game out various outcomes of the 2020 election. One such outcome was a clear Trump win. Remember that. They gamed a clear Trump win. The Democrats are thinking about this. In that eventuality, former Bill Clinton White House Chief of Staff John Podesta, the pervert that had the pedo ring that was being run out of, or whose brother, I believe, was involved as well, was running the pedo ring out of the basement of the pizza joint in Washington, D.C. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a conspiracy theory. I can't bring that up. In the eventuality, former Clinton White House Chief of Staff John Podesta, playing Biden, refused to concede, pressured states that Trump won to send Democrats to the formal Electoral College vote, and trusted that the military would take care of the rest. The leaked report from the exercise darkly concluded that technocratic solutions courts and reliance on elites observing norms are not the answer here, promising that what would follow in the November election would be a street fight, not a legal battle. Remember that. Because Byron York also mentioned from the piece that was written by the two top military brass that the streets would begin to burn and the streets would become a war zone, Tahrir Square, as a matter of fact. Two more data points among several that could be provided. Over the summer, two former Army officers, both prominent in the Democrat-aligned National Security think tank, wrote an open letter to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in which they urged him to deploy the 82nd Airborne Division to drag President Trump from the Oval Office at precisely 12:01 p.m., January 20, 2021. About a month later, Hillary Clinton declared publicly that Joe Biden should not concede the election under any circumstances. That doesn't sound like rhetoric from a political party confident it will win in an upcoming election. But one of the interesting points that Anton points out here is that Machiavelli goes out of his way to emphasize the indispensability of operational security, or OPSEC, or silence for success. The first rule of a conspiracy is you don't talk about the conspiracy. The second rule of the conspiracy is you do not talk about the conspiracy. And what Michael Anton contends here is that if this is a conspiracy that the Liberal Party is currently working on, why are they talking about it? Why are they revealing? Why are they exposing the exact plan they're working on? The reason that they're doing this is because they need to make this scenario where Donald Trump fights against a legitimately lost election or a legitimately won election, regardless. If Trump contests any results, if he refuses to leave the White House under the behest of the Democratic National Convention or any of the media, they have to bring this to the public to let them know that this is something that could happen. They have to sow seeds of doubt in Donald Trump's integrity. They have to sow seeds of doubt in his morality. They have to sow seeds of doubt in his ability to continue in the office, because all he is an authoritarian dictator bent on destroying this nation. They have to sow those seeds of discord, and they've done so. They can say a president who is bitter about the time lost during the impeachment process, a president who is desperate because he responded horribly and inaccurately to the COVID-19 crisis and killed hundreds of thousands of Americans, a president who openly and brazenly worked with a foreign government, Russia, to ensure his installment in the presidency of the United States in 2016. A president who has been caught on tape making racist comments. A president who said he would be dating 10-year-olds. A president who said that he would be sexually assaulting women. The instability, the mental instability of a president. This entire 4 years that he has been in office has been a complete setup leading up to this point to sow seeds of doubt in the minds of the American public that Donald Trump is unfit for office and he would do anything to stay in that position and stay in the White House. That's why they have to talk about this. They have to reveal it. Now, there's a spiritual aspect to this as well. Don't forget that. We can't talk about these things without considering the spiritual aspect which falls right behind this. And I read this and I was like, what an excellent way to point this out. A conspiracy that is widely known, an idea that is so well versed in the media and on radio. If I'm picking it up, I know smarter people than me are picking it up. An idea that has become part of the culture, that has become part of the talk cycle, the talking points, where it's on the late night comedy shows. It's all over the place. The spiritual aspect of this is the revelation of the method. We know that the Democrat Party, with its platform of abortion and its radical homosexual advocacy, the destruction of human life through contraception and sodomy and homosexuality, the complete erasing of lines between the sexes, removing the strength of man, removing the power of women, taking away the ability to say you're a man or a woman, pushing socialism and communism and Marxism, which at their roots are atheistic and demonic. They deny the power of God. They are revealing to us what they are going to do. This is revelation of the method. When they tell you what they're going to do, and they do this through movies, through music, through television shows, they get you subconsciously accepting of an idea of this. That when they reveal it to you, they show you, this is what we're going to do. And then when they carry it out, it strengthens their spiritual position to them. It gives them more strength in their dark powers and dark sorcery and demonic strength, because it compounds what their original demonic blessing would have been, because they told you what they were going to do to you. And when they told you what they were going to do to you, they smirked and said, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. When they reveal their methods to you and then carry those plans out, that gives them more credence and it gives them strength. This is revelation of the method, folks. That's why they're talking about the conspiracy. That's why they're letting people know about this. That's why they're opening it up to others. That's why they're revealing everything that they're going to do, so that when they carry it out in November, they will sit back and laugh in their smoke-filled rooms, empowered by satanic forces, and say, those schleps couldn't even stop us. Folks, we're going to talk about this and more when we get back right here on The Breakdown, so keep it locked in on the Crusade Channel. Welcome back to the breakdown, everybody, right here on the Crusade channel on Freaky Friday. I want to do a Freaky Friday. It's been a crazy week. You know, on my I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to all the stories I wanted to get to today, of course, but we'll just roll that right on into the next program because there's so many things I want to discuss. But first, I would be remiss if I did not say to you folks, head on over to mikechurch.com/shop. First, this is where you're going to find the Founders Trading Post. The Founders Trading Post is where we have all of our fantastic products, anything really you can think of. Well, within reason. Yesterday, it was Wednesday that I made an announcement about the book, The On Target Living: The Power of Feeling Your Best with Chris Johnson, and the fantastic book that is available now at mikechurch.com/shop. The reason it's so fantastic is because right now, during all of this coronavirus shamdemic, we have to make sure that we are planned, prepared, and ready, that our immune systems are strong and ready to fight against any of these infections that might come against us, or viruses or released weapons against us. We have to be sure that we're prepared for all of that, folks. And we have to be quite ready to ensure that we are able to have a strong immune system which is ready to fight against any of those illnesses that come against us. And it's apparent because even if it is something that is natural, something that is in nature, that is, jumped from animals to us, or if it's something that's been created by another country that is trying to destroy us actively, we still have to have a strong immune system. And that was no more apparent to my family than this past week. We've actually, past couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, we had to I had to take my youngest daughter, as a matter of fact, to the doctor. She had some problems with her ears. So when my wife, it was funny, my wife went to the doctor and she gets there to the urgent care. And of course, they have mask mandates in the office, and the woman behind the counter is wearing a mask. There is a plexiglass sheet in front of her. There's tape or something on the floor about 6 feet back from the plexiglass. And my wife is standing there in line with my daughter, who also is, because it's a medical office, she wore a mask to go in there. And when it was time for her to give the details of my daughter, she stepped towards the plexiglass. The receptionist stopped her and told her to step back and stand on the tape. The woman was wearing a mask behind a plexiglass shield. My wife was wearing a mask, and she still had to stand 6 feet apart. Of course, the first thing that pops in your mind is the absolute absurdity of such ridiculousness that if I'm wearing the mask and it works, I should be able to stand closer than 6 feet to you. If the plexiglass works, then I should be able to stand closer to 6 feet to you and not have to wear the mask. It's logically ridiculous. On top of that, the second thing that popped in my mind was the fact that, what about the privacy of my daughter? The people around now have to hear my wife speak louder because she's speaking through a mask and has to get past a plastic shield. And the woman on the other side is doing the same thing. So there was no privacy there whatsoever. My wife was telling me that another guy came in and she found out that the dude's got an infection on his leg, found out that he didn't have a fever, but he wasn't feeling the best. I mean, it was crazy. Now, my wife did tell them that when they asked her, do you consent to being treated? My wife said, I consent, but I do not consent to the COVID test. The woman stared at her for a couple seconds and said, okay. My daughter went back. She was seen, and the doctor that was there, whoever it was, did not have any problem with anything. Even when they were asked about vaccination. Now, my answer, if they ever ask about the vaccination, I always tell them they're up to date or they're vaccinated, because they are, and they're properly administered, something like that, because they are. My kids are properly vaccinated. the exact way that they do, the way that they need to be. But right now, and so this has become something that's more of a personal crusade now for me, as it should be for all of us, and that's the strength of our immune system. MikeChurch.com/shop right now, you can get a book called On Target Living, Your Guide to a Life of Balance, Energy, and Vitality. And if you go back to yesterday's archives of the Mike Church Show, you can listen to Chris Johnson being interviewed. Now, you can have the fantastic interview. I mean, it's a slam dunk, right? It's a fantastic interview. I learned a lot, as a matter of fact, while I was listening to that. If you were in the chat room yesterday, you found out I learned a lot about from that. A specific thing was acid reflux being a sign of a weak immune system, because your gut is integral to your immune system, and since acid reflux is a digestive disorder, then that means you're not properly digesting your food, which leads to a weak gut. Ipso facto, it affects your immune system. I didn't know that. I found that out yesterday through that awesome interview. So you can go to MikeChurch.com/shop right now. Not only would you be able to get a fantastic book that tells you how to structure your life in such a way that you strengthen your immune system, you bring balance to yourself, you get daily routines, you prioritize rest and rejuvenation, which is taken for granted so much today, but you learned these different keys to help you empower your life. And these are keys that God has placed in our hands and given to us for us to take responsibility for. If we don't do that, the fault is your own. MikeChurch.com/shop to purchase that book and other products. Don't forget the amazing coffee that we have there as well. I'm excited to try the different blends of coffee that we have there. My family personally enjoys thoroughly the Abbey Roast Espresso Blend, which you don't need an espresso maker for. I was concerned about that when I purchased it, but I was like, hey, I'm going to make this work somehow. And I got the bag. The smell is amazing. The aroma of this coffee is just amazing. Plus, the flavor is delicious, and my youngest daughter likes it too. I may just have to get her a bag of her own. She only gets it one day a week, though. She gets decaf mainly throughout the week. On the times that we do, not nearly as much now that she's back in school. But on Saturdays, we make we brew a full pot of coffee with her in mind, and we give her a cup of the Abbey Roast, and she absolutely loves it. MikeChurch.com/shop, folks. Those are the places you can go where you can enjoy the delicious coffees, the fantastic products, and you support the Crusade Channel. And if you're like, hey, you know what? I don't really want a book right now. I just want a quick hit. I've got a couple extra bucks that I found in my couch. I want to give it to a great cause. You can donate that to the August crowdfunding efforts of the Crusade Channel so that you keep the good, the true, and the beautiful on the air. It's necessary and it's essential. All right. Now, also, if you're in the chat room, crusadechannel.com/chat, then you, at the bottom right-hand corner, there is a grayed out $sign. If you click on that grayed out $sign, you can donate anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. Whatever you'd like to, folks. It's for the children. All right? It's for the children. What I need Sally Struthers. I need Sally Struthers, and I need a couple of shots from a third world country. All right. Okay, anyway, just thinking out loud. Donate just whatever you can. Whatever money you can put in there, we would greatly appreciate, because it is moving towards establishing the good, the true, and the beautiful in the media, and ensuring that you have an election year with the Crusade Channel full bore and full strength. MikeChurch.com/shop, and also CrusadeChannel.com/chat, and you can donate there. Interestingly enough, by the way, since it is Freaky Friday, I did find a story. Tom DeLonge of Blink 182 fame suggested that aliens may have been present for the birth of Jesus. Yeah, at least they acknowledge the birth of Jesus. Outside Angels and Airwaves, DeLonge dedicates a large amount of his time to unidentified aerial phenomena research with To the Stars Academy. After having a series of breakthroughs over the years with the organization, he is now revealing even more of his theories. In a recent interview with The Guardian, DeLonge points out that many things written in the text thousands of years ago have yet to be explained. As an example, he references the book of Exodus, the burning bush. Oh, gosh. This is the Eric von Daniken chariot of the gods theory, all right, what you're about to hear. As an example, he references the book of Exodus and the burning bush, which, according to religious scholars, spoke to Moses when God appointed him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Things were written in text thousands of years ago, like hearing voices in your head, a burning bush that was talking. The ancient texts may have called it God, but I'm just saying it's not that simple. Now, why is it not that simple, Tom DeLonge? Why is it easy for you to think that it could be aliens that prevented that bush from burning, or aliens that were the voices in your head, or an alien contraption that produced the manna in the wilderness for the children of Israel for 40 years? Why is it so easy for you to believe that Ezekiel's vision of a wheel within a wheel was the mothership, but it's hard for you to accept that it could be God? That's the logical fallacy which falls apart here. He goes on to reference the Star of Bethlehem. The star appears in the Gospel of Matthew. It's not even really a logical fallacy. It's just faulty thinking. The star appears in the Gospel of Matthew and leads the wise men to the birthplace of Jesus Christ. DeLonge suggests, however, that the star could have been something else, such as an unidentified aerial phenomenon. Given the star's description within the text, DeLonge thinks the possibility is there. The Star of Bethlehem, was that a star or a craft? Because a star is really big. It wouldn't be hovering over a manger. Oh, gosh. Now, I wonder how much time Tom DeLonge would dedicate to actually studying biblical texts and scholars about the star and about the revelation of where Jesus Christ was and the timeline. I wonder how much time he would spend looking at that. He said people need to buckle up, open their minds, and stop talking about, aliens and extraterrestrials, because I have a feeling that's not exactly what it is. He says that humans need to open their minds to the possibility that they aren't the only life forms out there. So this is really just, as Tom DeLonge goes on this, I've loosely followed him because I've heard about him in certain circles as he studies the extraterrestrial unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is just simply UFOs. It's the new term for unidentified flying object. UAPs are just UFOs. But this is really just recycled stuff. If you read Zechariah Sitchin and Genesis Revisited, if you look at Eric von Daniken, The Chariot of the Gods, all of those books follow the same themes. They go to the Bible, and rather than looking at the text of Scripture and accepting what it says, they look at the text of Scripture and they say, that was actually an alien. But it's so easy for them to accept and put in that aliens were there. Than it is for them to believe that God has existed from eternity past, uniquely in God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, and is giving us the revelation of what he did, rather than this just being a bunch of aliens. It's funny and odd. I'll just say that. So that's an interesting story here for Freaky Friday. We've also seen this week the Scientific American has endorsed Joe Biden. There's a lot to get into with that, but it's funny to me that the Scientific American has decided to endorse Joe Biden because science, right? But I want to get back here for just the remaining few moments to the position we were talking about previously with Donald Trump and the Democrats' wargaming fantasy that he is going to refuse to accept the results of the election, that he will contest regardless, and he will not leave the White House without military assistance, where he will be dispatched quickly by them. The first point we discussed here was that the reason the Democrats are the reason they're amping this up so much and putting it out there in the media is that they need this to become a part of mainstream thought. They need you to think that Trump is immoral, that he is unethical. They need you to think that he's a racist, that he is corrupt to the core, that he is a cronyist. They are trying this massive smear campaign of epic proportions that's been in action from the very beginning, leading up to this point. Right? It's leading up to this point, and they're revealing it to you. Since we also know that the Democrat Party is infused with spiritual assistance from the dark forces, Satan. I'm not trying to hide his name, but Satan does command an army of dark forces. And because of that, because he is behind it, they are using witchcraft methods. They are revealing to you what it is they are going to do in the revelation of the method to compound their spiritual strength after it's done. The second part of this is to produce enough ballots, either illegally or legitimately, to tip close states or dispute the results in close states and insist, no matter what the tally, that Biden has actually won them. That's why they're pushing so hard for the ballots, the mail-in ballots. Our very own folks in the chat room here, crusadechannel.com/chat, the last live radio station standing always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, has listeners that are receiving ballots they did not request, ballots from people who lived in their homes before, ballots for themselves that are duped and sent to previous addresses. They are preparing for this. Why? My question is, why would they send out ballots to people who didn't request them? If you send out 100 million ballots, mail-in ballots, and 120 million or so voted in the last election, 125 or 126 million, something like that, voted in the last election, why do you need to send out hundreds of millions of ballots to people who didn't even request them? If you're not trying to blanket the area, if you're not trying to blanket the country with illegitimate ballots and the potential for fraud, I wouldn't put it past the Democrats to have tens of thousands of pre-filled out mail-in ballots in boxes in the basement of the DNC. I wouldn't put it past them. They are prepping folks. The mail-in is legitimate. Trump is saying it's illegitimate. We're going to make sure all these votes are counted, and we're going to make sure that even these states that are tipping states will go to Biden's favor somehow. The third piece of all of this is to get the Democrat, is to get the vast and loud dim left propaganda machine ready for war. You have a leaked report that exhorted Democrats to identify key influencers in the media and among local activists who can affect political perceptions and mobilize political action, who could establish pre-commitments to playing to a constructive role in an event of contested elections, i.e. in blaring form from every rooftop that Trump has lost. They're getting their forces ready. They're getting their forces ready. And they're getting folks that are in the media able to push this as much as possible. This is a multi-tiered coup that we're watching develop before our very eyes. Get that in your mind. This isn't some narrative by a crazy whack job conspiracy kook. This is legitimate mainstream perception of what is being done by the Democrat Party to do whatever is necessary to have Donald Trump removed from office legitimately or illegitimately. But the problem is, can they rely on Secret Service? Can they rely on the military to move with these actions? Can they do something? Can they actually think that's going to happen? Now, let's say the military, and this is just me here, this piece that Mark Anton wrote. We'll put it in the chat room. It is a fantastic piece. But I also have a theory about whether or not the military is actually going to remove Donald Trump from office. Will the Secret Service remove Donald Trump from office? Will the military remove Donald Trump from office? There was a piece released just the other day, and right here, in my nicotine-stained fingers, I have here a piece, honestly, it's not really a piece, but it's just a news report about, from Axios, about the vandalism and looting that followed the George Floyd death has resulted in $1 billion plus of riot damage. They say out of the 140 cities, 10 cities across the United States of America, 20 states, as a matter of fact, across the United States of America, has between $1 to $2 billion LA, Detroit, Miami, Washington, New York, Newark, Baltimore, and Chicago are among these listed here that have resulted in nearly an over $1 billion, almost $2 billion worth of damage. What's funny about this piece is they say, hey, look, out of these 10 cities here, billions of dollars of damage is done. There are fires, rioting, looting, destruction of private property and business, loss of revenue, untold amounts of. This may be the physical damage, but what's the damage done to people? What is the damage done to lifespan and years and dollars? What is the damage done going forward? Axios says here, why does this matter? Because the protests that took place in 140 U.S. cities this spring were mostly peaceful. But the arson, vandalism, and looting that did occur will result in at least $1 to $2 billion of paid insurance claims, eclipsing the 92 riots. Pause the game. Mostly peaceful? Almost $2 billion of damage, deaths, destruction, lost businesses, civil and racial unrest, accusations that the president is racist, accusations that he is trying to run the nation with the military. Here's what they're telling you in this Axio piece. And here is where I think this is going. The military, the Secret Service may not remove Trump from office. But what the Democrats are telling us is that their armies are mobilized. Trump's army may not remove them, but the liberal army will remove them. Why? It says here very clearly, I believe that they're saying, this is peaceful compared to everything else that's going on out there. This is peaceful, people. You think this is bad? Just wait till you see us upset and you see us angry. Right now, they have a hope that Trump will win. This is them saying, look, this was peaceful compared to what will happen if Trump wins in November. The armies on the left are mobilizing. It's Antifa, it's Black Lives Matter, and this is a socialist violent takeover, an attempted coup against a legitimately elected president. Folks, look, this has been a Freaky Friday right here on The Breakdown. It's been a fantastic week. Thank you all so very much for your support. I look forward to seeing you again, Lord willing, on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend, and until next time, make Christ supremely valuable.
Asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible studies and sent to therapy.
You're listening to The Breakdown.
questions.
Now, which means one thing. Here on the breakdown, which means one thing. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 'Tis Freaky Friday right here on the breakdown, where we discuss the fringe topics, the crazy things that'll, well, get you kicked out of Bible study and sent to therapy. The macabre, the dark, maybe even the dank.
Asking the questions that get you kicked. Asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible studies and sent to therapy.